interested in home ownership, don't hesitate to call Columbia Savings and Loan to apply for a mortgage. The number there is 414-374-0486. So, this is the show where we talk about any and everything related to money. We've been talking about for the recent weeks, we've had a realtor on, good friend Mary Edwards. We have had underwriters from Columbia Savings and Loan on the show. But today we are very fortunate to have in the studio with us Ms. Deatra Kemp. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are, but D is fine.
Okay, all right. Well, it'll be D for me then because that's easy. So, D is the VP of programs for an organization that is known as Axe Housing.
Yes, that is ACTS Housing.
I'm glad you spelled that out because it can be a difficult to tell, exactly what you're saying. In fact, I wasn't familiar with Axe Housing. I'll be frank. I think we talked a little bit before we came on the show. And when I first heard people talking about it, I was trying to look it up, but I wrote AXE. Like, I don't know why I
Yeah,
was
a lot
thinking
of people
that,
do
but
that.
yeah, so I'm glad that you spelled that out so people know what we're talking about. So, Dee, welcome and thank you for taking the time to come in and talk to us today. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be the VP of programs for Axe Housing. And once you tell us that, we're going to talk a little bit about what Axe Housing actually is and what it does.
What we do is definitely the more important thing. I came to Axe about 5 years ago. I've been working in housing for over 20 years, though. Started my career working in the Park Lawn housing development. Then I went into property and regional management and compliance, did that for quite a few years. Actually spent a lot of time taking people out of their housing, which did not make me happy.
Yeah, so what do you mean by that, taking people out of their housing?
As a compliance manager for regional properties, it was really my job to address concerns and issues on the property, whether that was non-payment issues or people, not living up to the terms of their lease. And ultimately, I spent a lot of time in room 400 down at the courthouse, going through the eviction process with people. And as a woman of color, it bothered me greatly to see so many of our people losing their housing. Housing stability is so important. So I just wanted to do something different. So I
Yeah,
was
when you say room 400 of the Milwaukee County Courthouse, as an attorney, I am well acquainted with what that means. That's a huge cattle call, hundreds of people in that room at a time, and mostly, well, depending upon the time of day, because if you're there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you know that those are eviction cases, and that's hard to see.
definitely, and to see that it's mostly Black women with children that are being put into really unstable situations. Whether be, and most of the time because they can't pay, because they've had a crisis, and something has happened that has gotten them behind on their rent, but they don't own the properties, and the landlords have every right to say, I don't want you at this property anymore.
Right. So you mentioned that you were in charge of compliance at the time when you were involved on that end. How is it that you came all the way to the polar opposite end, if I can call it that,
Yeah,
working with
definitely.
Axe Housing?
I definitely wanted to make a career change. I wanted to get back to nonprofit, which is kind of where I started when I was really young in my career and where I found the most satisfaction. So Axe actually had an opening for a program manager position where you were helping people position themselves to be able to get pre-approved for first-time mortgages. And I thought, okay, I know all the downfalls of renting, and I definitely want to see more of our people get into ownership opportunities and start having equity and building wealth. So it was a great transition for me. I would say the best thing about when I came to Axe was they were very honest, and they said, we have a lot of African Americans who start this program, but we don't see them finishing the program at the same rates as we see them starting the program. What are we doing wrong? What can we do to improve the outcomes in the Black community? So we, at the time, were maybe 20% of our closings annually were Black families. We were really able to talk to the families who were participating in the programs, figure out how we could better serve them. And now on an annual basis, we're seeing 60% of our new home purchases being from African American families. So I've been really proud to be part of the team and see us really address the needs of the community and see the results and the impact through greater numbers of African Americans in our community achieving home ownership.
So that 60%, is that 60% of the total people that apply? So,
Well, last year, 2023, we had 338 families close on their first home, and 60% of those families were African American.
wow, that's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, we're in a majority minority city here.
Right,
So I want to see us overperforming always in the Black community. If 40% of us in Milwaukee are Black, then 40% of the city should be owned by Black folks.
right.
So we need to bring those numbers up. And I always want to be overperforming in this community so that we're closing that gap in
Right.
ownership that we see in the city. 70% of the white folks who live in this city are homeowners, but they only make up 20-30% of the population of the city.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we've definitely got some advancements that we need to make, but it's great to see that people want home ownership in our community and they're willing to do the work to get themselves there.
Absolutely. So, how long has Axe Housing been around, and what exactly is Axe Housing?
Axe Housing has actually been around since 1996. We are a one-stop shop for home ownership. The home ownership process can be confusing. It can definitely be daunting. So, we really want to be a nonprofit where you can come and we're going to take you from the beginning of the process all the way to the end. So, the first service that we offer, and in my mind, the most important service that we offer, is what we call home buyer coaching. You meet with a home buyer coach. They do a soft credit pull and they really talk to you about your financial situation and help you develop an action plan based on your unique circumstances. Okay, these are the things that you need to do so that I can help you get pre approved for a mortgage.
Hmm.
That's our
And
goal.
and a soft credit pull is important because that does not go against your credit score. That does not lower your credit score. For a soft credit pull doesn't have any effect on your credit score.
Absolutely. And this is really our opportunity to educate you. I always like to remind members of the community you're not broken if you don't understand finances. I feel strongly that this is knowledge that has been intentionally withheld from our communities. I have an MBA. I consider myself to be a very smart person, but nobody ever put a lease in front of me and explained my rights and responsibilities as a renter. Nobody ever put my credit report in front of me and explained it to me and how important it was to keep up with my credit. For sure, nobody ever put a contract to buy a house in front of me and explained how important that was to living the American dream and having equity and building wealth. These are all things I learned through the school of hard knocks.
Right.
And, all of a sudden, when I wanted to get a house, I go to the bank and they just say no. They don't tell me why they're saying no. I have to figure that out for myself. So we really start with that education. Let's educate you on your finances. People, a lot of times the first question is, how long is this going to take? When can I get my house? And it's like, okay, let's start from the beginning. Most people are worried about their credit scores, but what's your budget? Are you tracking your expenses? Do you know how much money you have coming in and how much money you have going out? What's an affordable home loan for you? How much do you want to be paying? And what does that mean as related to the cost of the house that you want to buy? Because a lot of us got North Side money but River Hill dreams.
For
So
sure. For sure.
so you got to know what's affordable. So really getting educated around your personal financial situation so that you can make the best choices for yourself and your family with all of that knowledge. And like I said, our goal is to get you pre-approved. And we work with great lenders like Columbia. Most of our families will get traditional financing from a bank or a credit union or a savings and loan. Um, But if you don't qualify for those products, we also are a lender and we offer first time mortgage loans that are not based on your credit score. Because there are a lot of us who might not have great credit, but we sure are paying that $1,200 a rent in every month on time. We sure are paying we energies who act like the mob on time
Yeah, they
every
do.
month.
Right.
So you got $1,500 in housing expenses that you're paying. I want to figure out how can I get you a mortgage that is equal or less than that and go get yourself a house instead of paying somebody else's mortgage.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you ever see a situation where people complete your program and their mortgage payment is actually less than the rent they might have been paying before?
Absolutely, that's typical. That's the goal.
Typical.
That's the goal. I mean, when you've got that extra money because you're not paying $1,500 a month for rent, and you've got yourself in a position where maybe you're paying $900 a month for your mortgage, that's going to allow you to really start living your best life.
Yeah, a
You can,
$600 basically
yes,
padding in your income, like it's almost like a bonus. That
absolutely.
money was accounted for before and now it's back in your budget.
And if you approach home ownership responsibly and with some expert guides on your team, there's absolutely no reason you can't put yourself in a position where you're paying less than what you were paying for rent. That's ideal. And that's what we want to see for most of our families.
Okay. Well, I noticed when you came in the studio this morning, you honed in on the youngest person in the room and said, "Come and see me about talking about home ownership." So, how young is too young? Is there such a thing as being too young to come and apply for your program?
No. You can legally purchase a home when you're 18 years old. So I've got nieces and nephews who are 16 and 17 that I'm telling right now, get engaged in this program, build your credit. So by the time you turn 18, you're able to purchase. And I don't want my nieces and nephews to have to dig themselves out of bad choices that they made along the way. I want them to start with that 800 credit score and maintain that for the rest of their lives so that they have access to whatever capital they need to live their best life and fulfill their dreams.
Right. Now, you mentioned home buyer coaching as the first step when
Yep.
you come to a place well, when you come to Axe Housing.
Yes.
And what all does that entail, the home buying coaching? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Absolutely. This really is I speak in sports analogy because I love sports,
Okay.
but I like to tell people that you may have noticed when you watch sports, coaches don't get in the game. You know what they do? They make sure you're eating right. They make sure that you're practicing. They're making sure that you can perform at peak. And that's the same thing that we want to do for folks with their finances. We want to help you get those finances tight and right so that you are able to access financing so that you can buy your first home. But I can't do it for you. I'm there to motivate you. I'm there to encourage you. But at the end of the day, you have to be willing to take control of your finances and do the things that we've outlined are necessary to position yourself for home ownership. I tell people all the time, don't get mad at my coach because they told you stop buying Prada bags or Yeezys. Why you got on Yeezys on the bus stop? It's too many of our people, particularly who are driving around in Land Rovers and don't own no land. What are we doing, y'all? So you have to come to us and be willing to be honest with yourself about your finances. When we have folks track expenses and I come back around and say, what did you find? The heads go down
Ah, they don't even look you in the eye at that point.
because they're like, I can't believe I was spending $200 on subscriptions to different stuff like Netflix and Prime and all this type of stuff.
They
Or
add up. Those add
yes,
up.
my ladies, I know we love looking good and can't nobody do it like we do it, but you can't be spending $500 a month on your hair and on your nails and then wondering why you're not in a position to get yourself into home ownership. Sometimes it takes sacrifice. We just had a young lady who closed and she was so proud because she kept the promise that she made to her children. But she said, we're a vacationing family and we didn't go on vacation for 2 years because we need to put that money up so that we could get that house. So sometimes it takes sacrifice, and your coach is going to be very clear with you about that. Um, but you're totally capable. You can do it. Are you willing to do the work to
Mm-hmm.
do it? Are you
Mm-hmm.
willing to learn the game so that you can play it? Because I feel strongly that when our people learn the game, we change the game.
There you go.
So we can definitely accomplish home ownership. It's just, are you willing to really critically look at your budget, look at your expenses, and say, I'm going to make some sacrifices in the short term to reach this bigger long term goal that I have?
Right. So we talked about initially a soft pull on the credits so we can see what's going on. And now we're talking about looking at the budget. So looking at, okay, how much do you earn? What are you spending on? What are your necessities? And what is, some of this fluff, right,
Yeah.
that you've been talking about? And then what happens next? They put maybe a plan together about how you can budget better and handle your money more responsibly.
Absolutely. And we're going to hold you accountable for that. So we're going to check in on you. This is real life. Things happen. You're going to get off track sometimes. Your budget may go awry one month. So we're going to help you get back on track and stay on track as long as it takes to get you to the point where we can get you pre approved for a mortgage. Once we see that you're in a spot where we can get you pre approved, we're actually going to start talking to you about what we think are the best lending options for you, and then we'll actually package you. We'll get all the documents together that we know a lender wants to see, and we'll send it off to that lender. So you're not having to run around with all your information begging folks for a mortgage. We're going to send it off to our preferred lenders. And I'll be very honest with you, we know exactly what they want to see. So if we're sending you off to a lender, you're going to be pre approved. Once you're pre approved, well, now it's time to go shopping. Now,
Okay,
now is the
yeah.
fun part, right?
Now it gets exciting.
So if you don't have a real estate agent, we have a full real estate brokerage at X. Just an excellent team of professionals who love helping people find their next home affordably. That's going to fit in your price range, whatever it is. Some folks choose to do a purchase rehab. So they might be looking at foreclosed city properties, and they might have the vision to do a project and renovate it and make it their own. And majority of our families are looking for move-in ready homes. So our real estate team can really accommodate whatever your desire is, whether it's a project or there's some great things happening in Milwaukee, like we finally have a land trust. And so we're affiliated with the land trust. We'll show you some land trust houses. There's so many different ways to become a first time homeowner, and none of them are bad.
Okay. And so what does that mean, Dee? A land trust. What does that refer to?
So Milwaukee finally has a land trust. It's called the Milwaukee Community Land Trust. I encourage folks to look into it. But basically, land trust is just a different ownership structure where you own the house and you don't own the land that it sits on. The land that it sits on is actually jointly owned. And in our model that we have here in the city, you're able to purchase some amazing homes that have been rehabbed literally from root to toot, and they're selling these homes from anywhere to $80,000 to $90,000. You pay a $50 a month fee, and that helps to keep up with grounds or any maintenance issues that may come up with the home going into the future. There is a capped equity that you have under the land trust model because the goal is to keep the housing affordable forever. So it's still a great ownership model. You can be in a beautiful house for $80,000. And if you want to get out of it at a certain point and sell it, just like you would any other house, you can.
Oh my goodness. We are fortunate to have Miss D in the studio this morning, kicking all this knowledge about how we can get into homes. Call us after the break at 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250, right after the break. Thanks for being with us.
I'm Vanessa, co-chair of the Juneteenth vendors.
I am Frank, co-chair of the Juneteenth volunteers.
Juneteenth is fastly approaching and space is always limited. So if you have an interest in being a vendor, you need to sign up today.
Juneteenth would not be successful unless we have volunteers. We need volunteers for a multitude of different areas. So companies, corporations, organizations, Divine Nine, even families, please sign up to be volunteers today.
So call Northcott Neighborhood House today at 414-372.
W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Welcome back to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. I'm here in the studio this morning with Dee, the VP of Programs for Axe Housing, and we already have a caller that's holding and waiting for us. So, caller, please go ahead with your question.
Hi, yes. My question is that I had signed up for your housing program. I paid, I believe it was $25 for the credit report, and then I didn't hear anything else. And then I called to inquire about the status, and then I received an email that said that you need to do some work in your credit. That's all. No one counseled me, no further assistance, you know. And I heard you say that, you guys help with the person, fixing their credit, whatever they have issues with. And I didn't get that service.
Give us a call back right away and let them know that you need to be scheduled with a home buyer coach. So we can definitely get you that one-on-one support that you need to get yourself there. And thank you so much for calling. Listen, sometimes we have to be persistent about our own dreams and goals. And I'm the type of person who doesn't take no for an answer. And I need everybody to not take no for an answer. If that's your experience, you keep calling, you keep harassing us, because this is your dream. This is your goal. You don't let anybody get in the way of that, not even us. So definitely be persistent. If you've had an experience with us in the past when we didn't meet those expectations, I'm here to say myself, I'm so sorry, and give us another chance, because we are a growing, changing organization. And I've definitely run into people who, they had an experience with us 5 years ago that wasn't a great experience, but I want people to have the most wonderful experience possible. And I want our folks in particular, Black folks, to be able to access home ownership. So please be persistent, give us a call, let them know, Hey, I heard D on the radio, and she said I needed to call and get myself scheduled with a home buyer coach.
Before we take the next call, D, tell everyone who is interested how they can contact Axe Housing. What number do you?
Absolutely. You can start with going to our website. It's actshousing.org. That's axhousing.org. We have a virtual orientation that's online that you can do any time of day or night. Once you've completed that orientation, give us a call. Our number is 414-933-2215 to get scheduled. We also have a great event coming up in collaboration with Columbia, one of our preferred partners. It's going to be at North Division on June 15th. And this really is your opportunity to start building the team that you need to become a successful homeowner.
And we'll talk more about it in just a moment. We have a for you, so I want to give everybody a chance to have that access. Caller, please go ahead with your question.
Oh yes, I'm calling. It's not for me. Somebody had asked me, and I didn't know the question they was asking me. So this seems like a good program. If you're on disability, is it possible that you can get home ownership?
Absolutely. Listen, based on how much income you have coming in, that may determine how much house you can purchase. But we have definitely helped folks on disability purchase their first home. It is absolutely possible. I think a lot of times we are so good at talking ourselves out of our own blessings. We're so good at giving ourselves the excuses and the reasons that we can't do something. Somebody's listening to this and they're saying, oh, my credit's too messed up. I can't do it. Well, Axe has programs where you can get a mortgage that are not credit score based. I'm going to say that again. We have programs where you can get a mortgage that are not credit score based. So where there's a will, there is a way. And you just have to be willing to talk to folks and find out what the resources are and what's the best plan for you. Stop talking yourself out of your blessings. Another thing that I want to mention too is at Axe, we're about removing barriers. So we noticed last year that we had a lot of Black men that were coming through our program, and they had addressed all their issues on the credit that we asked them to. They were on good budgets. They were tracking their expenses, but they had criminal justice impact. They had restitutions that they had to pay, or they had liens from child support. And typically when you have liens, a bank is not going to touch you. A traditional financial institution is not going to offer you a loan when you have a lien like that. Well, Axe is here to address issues like that because I feel strongly that men buy homes for their families. And I don't want to be in a city where the men in my city don't feel like they can take care of their families. Right. So with our program, you can have up to $50,000 in child support or criminal justice related liens. And as long as you're on a payment plan and are making payments on that balance, we're still going to offer you a mortgage product.
Now that's rare. That's excellent.
Absolutely. I don't know anybody else in the country that's doing that. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you that there's somebody sitting at home who's saying, oh, I got child support lien. I can't get no house. Yes, you can. There's somebody saying, I got to pay off this restitution. I can't get no house. Yes, you can. So Go talk to experts. Don't talk yourself out of your own opportunities. Talk to some experts and see what your options are. And I'm not saying you're not going to have to do work. You will. But what in this life is worth anything that you don't have to work for?
That's a word in and of itself. Caller, did you have another question?
Yeah, and I was wondering, I was thinking, it's better to buy a duplex than a single family home?
I love our entrepreneurial people. And yes, you know what? Milwaukee is actually a very unique market in that we do have so many duplexes. And with Axe program, we've seen people buy up to fourplexes. So you absolutely can look at this and say, you know what? Not only do I want to own my own, I want to have an investment property for myself, and I'm going to live underneath, and I'll have somebody upstairs paying my mortgage. We have a young lady who actually bought a house in Harambe. At the time, she was my youngest homeowner, young African-American female. She bought her house when she was 19, and she got a duplex in Harambe. At the time, Harambe's prices are skyrocketing, but she was able to buy the house at the time for 70,000, and that included purchasing the house and doing some rehab to the house. Now she lives in that house, and the person upstairs not only pays her mortgage, they put $200 in her pocket every month.
So she's making money by owning her home.
Absolutely. And she said, I asked her from the beginning, why do you want a duplex? She said, I don't want to pay my mortgage. I said, boy, if I was as smart as this child at that age, I'd have an empire right now. But it's absolutely possible. And definitely, we see a lot of families who are very interested in duplexes, triplexes, particularly after COVID. A lot of families, they want to have that co-living where, grandma's upstairs or auntie's right there so that they can support each other.
Right. So thank you, caller. Was there anything else?
No, that's it.
Thank you so much. So you have a good day. Dee, give them that number again so people know how to reach X Housing.
Absolutely. You can reach us at 414-933-2215. Go to our website anytime. That's actshousing.org. And hey, a great thing you could do also is join us at our event on June 15th at North Division. It's really going to be your opportunity to meet everybody on the ACTS team, to meet some of our preferred lending partners, and understand how to get yourself through this process. If you pre-register for this event, you'll actually have an opportunity to meet with one of our coaches on the spot. And they'll be able to do that soft credit pull, tell you where you stand, and what workshops you should attend during the day based on your actual situation.
Yeah, thank you, Dee, for circling back to the event, because I was going to ask you to talk about that a little bit more. So tell us, what is this event? What is this all about?
I'm so excited about this event. This is really the first time that we're doing anything like this. We're calling it Act on Home Ownership, because your actions are what lead you to home ownership. So, like I said, most people, they just don't know where to start. The process can be confusing. I find that people do things out of order. They're on Zillow looking for a house and they're not even pre-approved. They're calling real estate agents and saying, hey, I'm interested in this, and they don't have financing in place. So we're really going to say, okay, this is how you do things. This is the order you do them in. Here are some great resources and folks who can help encourage you and guide you through that process so you don't have to feel like you're doing it alone. And I don't care where you're at, what your credit score is, we can get you to home ownership. So don't talk yourself out your blessing. Just come on over to the event, June 15th, North Division, and learn more about the process and where you stand and what your next steps are.
So how do they go about pre-registering so that they can meet with that counselor once they get there?
You can register right now on our website, and they're going to ask you to complete that orientation, which is really just a set of videos where we're kind of outlining what the process is going to look like, collecting a little bit of information from you. And once you're registered for that event, when you come, we're going to give you what we're calling the golden ticket, and you can go ahead and meet with a coach right on the spot.
Like being on America's, what's that show where they sing, where you get the golden ticket, you
America's
go to Hollywood.
Got Talent.
Yeah, that one. So it's like that, only this is about home ownership.
Yes, and all of you are talented enough to become homeowners.
No, I love it. So, okay. And they can register right at your website.
Yep. You can register at the website, and you can also complete the virtual orientation on our website. So
now, is there any fee associated with participating in this event?
There's no fee associated with the event. The only fee that the families who work with us ever pay is for that initial credit report pull, which is $21. If you're a couple, it's going to be $42. But I know I put that much in a vending machine every month. So I think that that's a very low amount to really start planning for your future and to learn how to not only get yourself into a sustainable housing situation, but how to build wealth, starting to understand equity, how to leave our children in a better position than we were in. Because I think that's an issue too. A lot of the gains that we made with home ownership as a community, we've lost because these baby boomers are passing away and their kids don't even know how to maintain the properties that their parents worked their whole lives for.
And this is just such the perfect segue because Nate and Jermaine in the studio, they hear me talking about this week after week, the importance of planning for your estate and how you protect the things that you've worked hard for so that you can pass them on to the next generation. And some of this, and you and I were talking before we came on the air, is about communication.
It's so important. We're currently working with a young lady right now who, when I met her, she told me that her mom had passed years ago and her mother worked her whole life, owned a home in Glendale that she left to her. And her mother actually had the life insurance that will pay off your mortgage at your passing. So this girl should have had a house in Glendale, and the only thing she was ever worried about paying was the taxes and the utilities. Well, her and her mother had never had that conversation. So shortly after her mother passes, somebody swoops in and says, well, I know you can't afford to keep up with this $200,000 house. I'll give you $50,000 for it. Now, that's more money than she had ever seen in her life.
And
So
she didn't realize that the insurance had paid the house off and she was free and clear.
she had no idea. So she ends up giving up her mother's house for extremely cheap, $50,000. And I guarantee you, this house in Glendale is probably worth at least $300,000 right now.
I'll bet it is.
And in my program right now, 2 kids deep, trying to become a first time homeowner when her mother set her up, but she didn't know. She didn't have that communication with her. So when she did pass, she didn't understand. Oh, I know mom took care of this. I know mom has this set up for me. So we've got to do estate planning. Too often in our community, when it comes to talking about finances, we telling our kids get out of grown folks' business. We need to stop crippling our babies. We got to be able to talk about finances because the reason we're behind the 8 ball is that this is dinner table conversation in white folks' households. They're going to
Right.
talk about finances. They're going to know where the will is and what it says. They're going to know what insurance is going to pay and what it's not. And I anytime anyone passes, there's sadness because of that loss. But I tell folks, I'm like, this is why white folks don't cry at funerals. Everybody getting paid. They know.
Yeah.
And they still, don't get me wrong, they still, of course, they still feel that loss. But too often we on GoFundMe trying to bury our people.
Right.
And we definitely don't know if that person was a breadwinner, how we're going to keep up when we need to have that planned.
Right.
And then you don't have to do all that wailing because this person has left you in a position where you're going to be okay. And I know that we want that for our families, just like everybody does. But we have to be willing to have those conversations with each other.
Yeah.
And
What do
say,
you think that is, Dee? That reluctance to talk about these things? Because I've seen it and it's real.
it's tough conversation.
Yeah.
We don't like talking about the tough things.
Mm-hmm.
We want to talk about the Kardashians. We want to talk about Diddy. We don't want to talk about the things that really matter. And you know what? I have to be willing to go to my dad and say, Dad, what happens? We all owe a death. That's the one thing in life that's guaranteed. We all owe a death. I have to be willing to go to my dad and say, Dad, how do you want this to look? What do you want to do? What does your will say? How do I get access to that in the event of an emergency? Where is that at? And we all need to be willing to have those conversations, whether it's us as the children having the conversation with the parents or the parents having the conversation with the children.
Right.
Because I don't believe any of us want to leave our families in disarray should anything happen. It's just a tough conversation to have because we don't want to think about end game.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to think about the fact that at some point we're not going to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all, we are all owed to death. And talk to your family. Let them know what the plan is. That is so healing when you already going through the loss of somebody to at least know I'm doing things the way mama wanted them done. I've got folks who go through our program and they set up everything. Oh no, I've already got my obituary written. I've got my funeral paid for. I've got all of that taken care of so that on top of the stress of losing me, my children don't have to worry about making these arrangements and they know exactly what's going on financially, where my insurance is, and what to do with my assets.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, that's the one thing that's sadder then the loss that you're already grieving is when the finances are in disarray, or the story that you just shared with us about the young lady who there was some fast talking person that came in and convinced her that
Yes.
she could not afford to keep a home that she in fact already owned free and clear.
Yep. And
That's
they
devastating.
do it because it works.
Yes.
Our people suffer from a lack of knowledge, and we lose from a lack of knowledge. We've got to be willing to educate ourselves around our finances and not just live for the moment, but live for the future.
Right, right. Which is why this conversation is so important. And I'm so glad that you're here to have. The number here is 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Don't hesitate to give us a call while we have all this expertise in the studio. I know you mentioned, Dee, that you're going to need to leave a few minutes early. We aren't quite ready for the break, but I think that what I would like to do is, even though I know you just talked about it, repetition is so key. If you could
Absolutely.
go back again and tell the people who might not have been listening even 10 minutes ago more about this workshop that's coming up on the 15th of June.
Absolutely. I want everybody out there um, to stop wishing for home ownership and know that it's something that you can accomplish. Come to our Act on Home Ownership event June 15th at North Division. Go on our website, actshousing.org. You can get registered for that event. You can do the virtual orientation, and you don't even have to wait till the 15th. If you take those steps, don't hesitate to give us a call and say, I need to meet with a coach as soon as possible. Our number is 414-933-2215. And we're typically able to get folks in for appointments within a couple of weeks of them calling. So don't hesitate. Don't talk yourself out your blessings. You can be a homeowner.
Tell us some of the success stories that you've seen at your time with Axe Housing.
Oh, that's what gives me life.
I can tell your face lit up when I even asked the question.
One of my favorite is Ray. She actually went on to become one of our board members, but she was a homeowner who went through our program. She decided to do a purchase rehab. She worked with a coach for over a year to pay off quite a bit of debt and really get herself in a great financial situation. She got a loan from us, and she actually purchased a duplex that she then converted into a single family home. So she's got a huge home. She was renting with her and her son. And when she finally moved into her house and finished her rehab, she allowed her son to have his first sleepover because she was never comfortable with him having a sleepover in an apartment, didn't want to make a disturbance, have a bunch of noise, boys. So her son is having his first sleepover, and they're being boys. They're playing video games. They're running around the house. And she said she got up to tell him to quiet down because she was so used to being in an apartment setting where that was really important. And she didn't want to get notices about noise or be a disturbance. And she realized that she was in her house.
Right, right. So
And
she was the boss.
yes. And she said, girl, I shut the door and sat back down. But I think for me, a lot of times, particularly in our community, home ownership is equated to freedom. Because
that's the word.
Folks don't know the burdens that they're carrying as renters. You can't even let your baby pick the color on the wall. You can't pick the color on the wall just so that you can be more comfortable. You're in a position of asking somebody else if you can have a pet or if your child can have a pet. These are things that you don't do when you're a homeowner because you're in control of your space and you don't have to ask anybody anything. It's what you decide.
Right.
But so many of us are generational renters that we don't realize the things that we're denying ourselves by not owning our spaces and being in control of our own spaces. And that is freedom.
Right. Not to mention the wealth that you pass on to the next generation.
Absolutely. When you're paying a mortgage, you're paying yourself. When you're paying rent, you're paying somebody else's mortgage. And trust and believe, there are those of us out there who have been renters. I had a landlord come to me one time and say, I'm about to go to Hawaii. I need that rent.
So you're stuck there working, paying for somebody else's vacation.
Paying for their vacation, paying for their mortgage, paying for their kids to go to school. I feel strongly that our children deserve that.
Right.
I'm working for Milwaukee where no black babies know what a landlord is unless they collecting the rent, because there are too many of us, our children, who have been traumatized by eviction, who haven't been in stable housing, who are constantly switching schools because their parents are on a race to the bottom for the cheapest rent possible, because rent is going up $200 and $300 every year. Wages aren't going up that
They
fast.
sure aren't. Only other thing going up that fast is grocery expenses.
Yes. And think about all these folks who have had mortgages as this inflation has been happening. At least their payment is the same every month when it comes to their housing expenses. They don't have somebody sending them a notice that says at the end of your lease, we're putting the rent up $100 more.
Okay. So we've got one more caller. I think that we'll be able to get in. I know you're going to have to leave us a few minutes early, Dee, but let's let this person get a question in for you. Thank you, caller. Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, ladies. I have a question regarding property. I was listening to the program, and thank God that I've gone through the process of already having a will and testament, and I've already did the paperwork to have everything in my daughter's name paid on death.
Yes.
And I'm trying to make sure everything is in order. But I live in a prime location. I like the location where I live, but my house needs renovation. If I ever decide to sell it or whatever,
Yeah.
I want it to be more modern. Now, do you guys do anything as far as renovation loans and stuff like that?
At Axe, we do not, but we can definitely have you work with a home buyer coach, look at your credit, and make sure that you're positioned to get a loan if you wanted to do some home improvements. But I would also check out Habitat for Humanity. They have a renovation program that is really great. And there's another organization called Revitalize Milwaukee that also has renovation programs. And then lastly, I would look at the city of Milwaukee's website. They actually have some great programs to help you do improvements to your home. And some of those programs are forgivable loans. So
Okay.
I would check all of those resources before you look at actually taking out a loan. But there's nothing wrong with meeting with a coach and just making sure your credit is tight and right. And we're more than happy to make a referral to a great organization like Columbia to help you with a renovation loan.
Yeah, I also have an account at Columbia. My credit rating is in the 800. So,
Girl, go talk to your banker. Talk to your banker. You are doing fine, but don't sleep on those resources that might be free. So I would still check out those other organizations. Don't leave no free money on the table. But then, yes, go see your banker with your 800 score. You need to be over here on the radio with us.
I was going to say that plug in too.
Working hard.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
appreciate your call. Okay, so thank you so
Okay.
much for calling. And Dee, I can't thank you enough for joining the show today. We're not done yet, though. When we come back from the last break, I'm going to give you a reminder about the home buying seminars that are going to take place at Columbia. We'll talk about that after the break. But Dee, thank you so much for joining us. Give us your number one more time before we go to break.
414-933-2215. That's Axe Housing, ACTS Housing.org. Thank you so much for letting me come on today.
Thanks for being here. We'll talk after the break.
Enjoy a free day plus celebration at the Milwaukee Art Museum on June 6th.
VP of programs for X Housing and did a fabulous job talking to everyone about what that program is, what that organization does, and how they can be of help to you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to her and start leveraging those resources that have been mentioned. If there's anyone that has a call that you'd like to still get in to me before the end of the show, the number here is 414 444 5250. That is 414 444 5250. That's the number to reach us. So, but before we wind things down today, I'd like to just again, on behalf of Columbia, with the 100th year celebration this year, the goal is to get 100 families in homes by the 100th anniversary year. The actual anniversary of the bank turning 100 will be this September. But so for that, this year leading up to that 100th, as well as the 100th year itself, which will start in September, we are aiming to get 100 families in their own home. So I implore you to reach out to Columbia Savings and Loan Association at 414 374 0486 to make an application for financing for your very own home mortgage. Please do. So, coming up, is also a seminar where Columbia Savings and Loan Association is working in partnership with Port Washington State Bank. I've talked about this for a couple of shows. I'm going to keep reminding everyone right up until the time that the seminar takes place. It will be on June 27th. Which is a Thursday, and there will be two different sessions. The first one at noon that day, the second at 4 p.m. This home buyer seminar in partnership with Port Washington State Bank is informational. What I've learned and what I've seen when I go and I talk to people, especially younger people, about homeownership, the importance of it, the reaction that, I hate to say this, but the reaction that I have been observing is fear. People are afraid. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to get started. And what we're saying today is we completely understand that it's an overwhelming process if you try to just take it on all on your own. But if you've got an organization like Axe Housing, or if you have a community bank like Columbia Savings and Loan Association, reach out to us, because this is what we do. We do it all day long. We do it every day, and we do it better than anybody else. So the homebuyer seminar that will be taking place on June 27th, we will provide food. So if you come during your noon hour, you'll have an opportunity to have lunch on us. You'll have an opportunity again if you come at 4 p.m., consider it dinner. But either way, we will have guest speakers, which are loan officers from both of these banking organizations. And we're talking about people with years and years of experience, that this is what they do all day, every day, and they will be able to answer your questions. What will you learn at this home buyer seminar? Well, one, you will learn how owning your home builds generational wealth. That's something that Dee and I talked about, and she gave the unfortunate example of the young lady whose mother left her a home basically free and clear in Glendale, and then some investor came and talked her out of it for $50,000 cash, and now that person is going through the ACTS program in order to reposition herself and put herself in, I should say, put herself in position so that she can go out and buy a home. But she could have been in a $300,000 home already, free and clear. So plenty of equity, in a comfortable environment to raise her kids. And now she's starting over. So it is important that we communicate about our estate planning. It's important to know, where is that will document? Is there an insurance policy? Who is the beneficiary? Will it pay off the mortgage, or will it be burial expenses? We've got to talk to our kids and let them know. No one's a mind reader. We mentioned that these are tough topics, and I I talk about them and I hit them hard when we talk about estate planning, but then I try to have a week or two in between where I bring in another speaker that will give a perspective on things that maybe isn't quite so harsh, but at the end of the day, we can't escape it. The reality is that none of us lives forever. And we work hard in this lifetime. We want to be able to leave things to our loved ones, and we want them to be able to have the benefit and the net gain of being able to own property and have resources so every generation doesn't have to start all over again. So, owning a home builds generational wealth, and that's important. That's one of the things you'll learn at this seminar. Another thing that you'll be learning at this seminar is how banks look at credit. Okay. So these are the things that we don't know. These are the things that can be kind of intimidating, that are people are afraid and don't know what to do or how this is going to work. And you feel that if your score is at a certain level that the banks won't consider you. Well, that's not necessarily the case. But even if it is, you'll learn about getting access to information to help you build and repair and restore your credit. When I first started doing the show, we did the first couple of weeks with what I called the credit kickoff. And all I did was talk about ways for people to increase their credit score. And I will, in due time, circle back and talk about those things again, because I know that that's a real important topic that people are interested in for reasons just like this. So, learning how to build better credit is another one of the things that you'll learn at this seminar. Um, You'll also learn the types of mortgage loans and their benefits, because there's different types of loans out there. Maybe one type of loan might be good for you, another type of loan maybe not so much. You will learn about available grants and down payment assistance. That's another thing that's very important. People think that they have to have a huge down payment to get in their home. Well, it's helpful if you've got some money stored, but there are grants and payment assistance available. One of the other things, and I'll wrap it up with this comment, excuse me, things to avoid before your home closing. You'd be surprised at how many people are all set to close on their home and they go out and take out a credit card and start charging it up, or they go and they get a car loan, and then next thing you know, they don't qualify for this home loan anymore, because that can happen. We've got to educate ourselves to know better and to do better and not make those types of mistakes. The information is there. Please contact Columbia at 414-374-0486 to find out how you can register for this seminar. Thank you, everyone, for listening. There was a lot of information given today. We appreciate the audience and look forward to speaking to you next week. Thank you so much. This is Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Have a good week.